Quote, you must learn the mathematical language if you want to be successful, end quote. Farad Muhammad. Quote, Islam is mathematics, and mathematics is Islam, end quote. Elijah Muhammad. You must learn and apply the mathematical language for success. If you are not willing or not able to learn the mathematical language, then you will not be of those selected among the elect by the Son of Man. The angel is the test. The angel is history/prophecy written in mathematical language. Only the elect, those who learn it, will be selected. Quote, and they are singing a song new in sight of the throne and in sight of the four living and of the older persons, and no one was able to learn the song if not the 144,000 that have been brought from the earth, end quote. You will not be allowed to enter the garden, which is, quote, as wide as the heavens and earth, end quote, if you don't know the mathematical language. No fools, no philosophers, no dreamers. You must be a scientist if you wish to navigate and play amongst the stars. The Middle East is about to explode. The tinderbox, the spark that will ignite the time of unprecedented trouble. World War III, the War of Armageddon. Who will strike first? This is the prophecy concerning ISIS, the Arabs, who are, quote, our people, end quote. They are also the seed of Abraham. The defeat of ISIS signals the war in heaven, where Farad and his angels battle Saudi Arabia / the dragon and its angels / America, Britain, and false Israel. This is the prophecy concerning ISIS, the Arabs, who are, quote, our people, end quote. They are also the seed of Abraham. The defeat of ISIS signals the war in heaven, where Farad / Michael and his angels / Iran, Syria, the Shia battle Saudi Arabia / the dragon and its angels / America, Britain, and false Israel. Iran will lay siege to false Israel, allowing nothing in or out, causing them to surrender. America will not be able to help them. The Abrahamic prophecy is the foundation prophecy of the scriptures. It is the central prophecy from which all scriptures revolve. the slaying, oppression of Abraham's seed, the return/arrival/intervention of God, the identification of Abraham's seed, the resurrection of Abraham's seed, the return of Abraham's seed, the destruction of those who were the oppressors of Abraham's seed, the repossession of the land of Abraham, the land of promise. Mr. Netanyahu is string walking Mr. Trump into a death trap, a snare. Mr. Trump is turning up the heat of the pot of oil he is in. Mr. Trump doesn't realize he is in the pot. Pressure, which is energy, can be increased by temperature by decreasing the space the pressure is in. If you are in an overcrowded elevator, you are under pressure. However, if you start pushing people away, attempting to get more room for yourself, you are increasing the pressure on everyone, including yourself. The more room you are claiming, the more pressure you are generating, which is what Mr. Netanyahu is doing, is using Mr. Trump to do. Take more space, Golden Heights, which will increase the pressure in an already pressurized region, pushing the region ever closer to boiling/war. First Syria, then Jerusalem, now the Golden Heights, not to mention the ever-tightening restrictions on the Palestinians. War/boiling is but days away. Mr. Trump never got the memo that Israel ain't real. A not-so-secret secret. Fake Israel was set up to counter Elijah Muhammad's narrative that the original people, enslaved, persecuted, oppressed, tormented, and raped, are the true seed of Abraham and the inheritors of the, quote, promised return, end quote, the promised restoration. Mr. Netanyahu has served up the Kool-Aid, and Mr. Trump has drank every drop and asking for more. The evangelicals have long been drunk off and addicted to the Kool-Aid. They have to believe in that lie. The alternative is unimaginable. They are desperate to believe that false Israel is the real deal. So desperate that they seek out any and all opportunities to confirm it. They swarmed to Mr. Trump because they believe that he will confirm their desperate hopes and dreams. Destroy the Arabs, get rid of the blacks/niggers, and establish false Israel as the sole sovereign in the Middle East. If the niggers in America are eliminated, then false Israel has to be the true seed. That's their hope. To that end, they are urging Mr. Trump to battle, to the great battle of Jerusalem, the great war to decide who will reign in the Middle East, and to herald the return of their Jesus Christ. They are beside themselves. They can't wait any longer. They need total vindication of their hopes and dreams now. They need relief from that nagging little but growing voice in the back of their heads that maybe Israel ain't real. False Israel has got to be real. It just has to be. America is on God's side. It just has to be. Blacks are cursed by God to be slaves of whites. That has to be the truth. It just has to be. The prevailing unspoken narrative among evangelicals in particular and all whites in general is that niggers are inferior and scripturally the descendants of Ham, who are cursed to be slaves to whites, which is why they were turned black. So they are blameless for the 400 years of terror horror they have continued to inflict on us, as it was and is according to the dictates of God. For those not scripturally inclined, there is evolution, which fills the science gap. Blacks are the link between man/Caucasians and beasts/apes, the link that, like the animals, have stopped evolving, so we are animals. In either case, the Caucasians, were merciful, even beneficent, by bringing us here and, quote, civilizing us, end quote. Even more so, in allowing a sense of equality with them. The paradigm of ignorance, of self-justification, was threatened with Elijah Muhammad's declaration that we are the seed of Abraham, the inheritors of the, quote, promised return, end quote, and that we are the creators, not the created. Mr. Trump knows he has to deliver the heads of the Arabs to Mr. Netanyahu on a platter. The evangelicals will settle for nothing less, and soon. They are becoming ever impatient, and they are making that very clear to Mr. Trump. Mr. Netanyahu will settle for nothing else, beginning with the heads of the mullahs in Iran. Mr. Netanyahu wants immediate action. He is daily, hourly pushing the envelope, provoking Iran into action so that America will have an excuse to attack, openly threatening Iran and attacking Iranian proxies in Syria and Lebanon. Mr. Netanyahu recently stated that the purpose of the, quote, Arab, end quote, summit, where all the Sunni Arab states allied with America and fought Israel against Iran, met. The purpose was to attack Iran, go to war with Iran. The war in heaven, Middle East, will break out any day now. The dragon, Saudi Arabia, its angels, Gog, Magog, and Dajjal, America, Britain, and false Israel, respectively, against Farad/Michael, the Iranians' 12th Imam, and the Shia, Iran, Syria, and ultimately Shiite Iraq. A very bloody war, a war between chaos and harmony, a terrible war, the opening scene of the War of Armageddon, the Malhama, the Great Tribulation, the time of unprecedented trouble. Global warming. They are telling that the environment has become an existential threat. They claim that it will become out of control, leading to the possible extinction of all life on the planet within 10 years. There is some truth to that. The planet is fighting back. This technology that everyone is foaming at the mouth about is alien to the planet. It's contrary to the creation. But the main issue is, if their forecast is true, should taking action be a matter of debate? Hanging on a vote. The possible extinction of all life hanging on a vote. Hanging on politics. Think about it. No, think about that. It's fine to play around when it's only a game. But life, the environment, the creation is not a game, and to be subject to a sick, stupid system called democracy really makes the point, don't it? It was democracy and capitalism that got us here. Do you really think the problem is the solution? The entire world is in a state of deception. We are told that Satan would deceive the entire world. Deception is everywhere, ubiquitous. They have descended from and upon every elevated place. The NOI, the original nation, is surrounded and encompassed by its enemies, by the dragon, the son of perdition, and the false prophet, each one of them an impostor. The axis of evil, the unholy triage, the trinity of destruction, the axis of deception, the impostor trio. The strategy. The strategy of the devil for the destruction of the original people is a twofold plan: to isolate, demonize, demoralize, then destroy. Quote, let us deal shrewdly with them, end quote. The scriptures makes it crystal clear, abundantly clear, that they are planning our destruction. They are not planning openly. No, they are being shrewd about it, meaning they are planning covertly and will implement their plan covertly. Covertly, while they have us following the lead of demons distracted by sports, play, entertainment, drugs, etc. The Abrahamic promise is an existential threat to them. They are promised destruction for their persecution of Abraham's seed. It's either them or us, and they are taking the threat very seriously. If we don't exist, then the prophecy is dead. Kill us, kill the prophecy, just as Pharaoh/Herod attempted to destroy the prophecy of their demise by destroying the object of the prophecy, the child destined to bring about their demise. So it is with America. Kill the males. They are planning to destroy us under the color of war. Trick us into defending America against contrived enemies, a contrived war, where we will be used as cannon fodder, abandoned in the heat of battle against a 200 million man army. The tactics to achieve their strategic goal, they have devised and employed three tactics, each tactic designed to address all three aspects of the hopes, the vision, the Abrahamic promise. Quote, a nation without vision will perish, end quote. The Abrahamic promise is the vision of the original nation. Even during so-called slavery, blacks likened their plight with the plight of Moses and the children of Israel under Pharaoh in Egypt. Even before Elijah, the Abrahamic promise provided the suffering slaves a vision, hope. The vision, the Abrahamic promise, rests on three foundations, and the devils know they must destroy the vision, the Abrahamic promise, before they can destroy the subject of the promise, the original nation. Isolation, demonization, demoralization. The devils have to isolate us from the land of promise, the reward for 400 years of unbearable oppression, suffering. Set up a wall, the house of Saw, the dragon, to keep us separated from the land of promise, Arabia. They have to demonize us by providing us with a false identity. They have sowed their seed among us to corrupt our image, to make us appear to be something we are not, an evil image, a repulsive image, an image of demons who resemble us, black-faced Caucasians, but ain't us, all the while setting up a false image with our identity, false Israel. They have to demoralize us, take the vision away, take our hope away. They have to convince us to forsake any hope of realization of the vision. Quote, we ain't going nowhere, end quote. They need to recruit a trusted standard bearer to turn us away from the vision while leading us to destruction, genocide under the color of war, which is the ultimate goal. Farrakhan. First, there are the demons who have been mingled in with us, pretending to be us, the chaff mixed with the wheat, to deceive us into believing they are us, but are in fact black-faced Caucasians, the fruit of 400 years of raping black women, whose design purpose is to convince us that we are nothing special, that this is our home, our only home, and to love and obey Massa. Mr. Farrakhan posing as Jesus, the architect of the, quote, promise of return, end quote, to Abraham, to his seed as reward for 500 years of bondage, being Jesus, he can void his promise and forsake the, quote, promise of return, end quote, since it was his promise to make, but then he would be a liar. Quote, we ain't going nowhere, end quote. Then the false Israel who claim themselves Jews. They have appropriated/stolen our identity theft, as foretold in the scriptures where Jacob steals Esau's birthright and later extorts his name Israel. They, the Jews, are pretending to be us. They need to convince the world, and primarily us, that they are the true seed of Abraham, the inheritors of the prophetic promise, the, quote, promise of return, end quote. The Jews, hated by the Caucasians for thousands of years, suddenly, overnight, became the favorite fair-haired son whose shit has suddenly turned to honey. The sudden transformation is a result of their attempt to nullify the truth of Elijah, that America's niggers are the seed of Abraham, the children of the, quote, promise of return, end quote, and that America is the nation doomed for destruction for daring to touch the apple of God's eye. America had to nullify that narrative by manufacturing a counter-narrative to which the formerly hated Jews are now kosher, the beloved of God. The dragon, the house of Assad, who are pretending to be Ishmael, the first son of Abraham, when in fact they are Indian Hindus. The British tried to eradicate Islam during their occupation of the Middle East and surrounding Muslim countries. They wanted to destroy the Caliphate, the capital of Islamic scholarship. The British attempted to burn all copies of the Quran but failed. The Quran had been put to memory by thousands, tens of thousands. Failing that, they broke up what is now called Iraq, the seat of the Caliphate, into many subdivisions called Kuwait, Lebanon, Syria, etc. Then they recruited a family, the Saudis, from India to pose as Muslims, claiming blood ties with Muhammad to seize and take control of Mecca along with Arabia. The House of Assad is neither Arab nor Muslim. They are Hindus posing as Muslims to control the immense oil wealth for Gog and Magog. Through them, the dragon, the British, Magog, and later Gog, America, could/would control all the oil resources of Saudi Arabia while slowly diluting, corrupting Islam, controlling, quote, the promised land of return, end quote. He who takes Christians and Jews for allies is one of them. He who takes the Christians and Jews for allies is one of them. The house of Assad, the dragon, is allied with Gog, Magog, Christians, and Dajjal, Jews, America, Britain, and false Israel. What does the false prophet, false Israel, the dragon, house of Assad, and the son of perdition, Farrakhan, king of the demons, have in common? Where does their agendas converge? Understand, they are all imposters. The triangle of destruction. There are three aspects to the Abrahamic promise/covenant concerning his seed. First, the identity of Abraham's seed. Second, the promise of return, reward for 400 years of unprecedented oppression. Third, possession of the land of return. The demons, devils, Satan, the satanic triangle is at war with God, the original people. They have set in motion a three-pronged attack against the original nation to prevent its rise and force its destruction. They are attacking the original nation from every elevated place, a three-pronged attack to deal with the prophecy from all three angles. Note, if there is no return, the foundation of the covenant/promise, the entire promise is invalidated. It collapses. The devil's triangle's agenda. First, the job. Deny/invalidate Isaac/Nation of Islam's claim to the quote land of promise end quote. Second, the dragon. Prevent Isaac, the original nation, from ever returning home to Arabia to take ownership, possession of the quote land of promise end quote. Third, the son of perdition is to keep us, Isaac, the true inheritors of the quote promise of return end quote, from even wanting to return, destroy the very idea of return. Invalidate the covenant of return. First, the Dajjal, the false prophet, Jews, have usurped the identity of Isaac, claiming to be the seed of Abraham and inheritors of the quote promise of return end quote, which is the substance of the prophetic promise to Abraham. Agenda: deny/invalidate Isaac's/Nation of Islam's claim to the quote land of promise end quote. Prevent the promised return. Second, the dragon, the house of Saad, Hindus, has usurped the identity of Ishmael, having taken possession of the quote land of promise end quote, Arabia, who Ishmael the Arabs are the caretakers of. Agenda: prevent Isaac, the original nation, from ever returning to Arabia to take ownership, possession of the quote land of promise end quote. Third, the son of perdition, Farrakhan, the king demon, keeps preaching that quote we ain't going nowhere end quote, which nullifies the quote promise of return end quote, and the 400 years of suffering that earned us the quote promise of return end quote. Without the fulfillment of the quote promise of return end quote, there is no promise. The Quran tells us that Allah will never destroy a nation while the righteous are among them. Farrakhan, the chief demon, is trying to protect Daddy Massa by keeping us here as hostages. The messenger taught that they would use us as hostages. Agenda is to keep us, Isaac, the true inheritors of the quote promise of return end quote, from even wanting to return, destroy the very idea of return. In a moment of candor, the false Jews reveal that they are not the inheritors of the quote, promise of return, end quote, which had to be preceded by 400 years of enslavement. It never happened to them. Pressure is the nature of the universe, the nature of the creation. If you can find/prove or describe just one thing in the entire creation, just one that is not pressure, not under pressure, or not under tension, tension being the opposite of pressure, then this presentation is not for you because you have proved that everything stated herein is incorrect. Mathematics control the universe. Mathematics is the universe. Everything in the universe submits to mathematics. Mathematics is quick at reckoning, meaning the reaction to every action is instantaneous. Mathematics is predictive. The wise tap into mathematics to study, learn, and manage it. Fools ignore their actions, yet grieve and wish to shun the reactions, the consequences. You reap what you sow. For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. God is mathematics. For every action, there is a consequence. Absolutely, without exception, ever. We were taught by the messenger that Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam, which means that reality is mathematics, all reality, the entire universe. We are taught by the messenger that God is power and force, which is to say that God is pressure. Understanding these two lessons, it is clear that everything is mathematics, expressed physically as pressure, which is force. There are 25 scientists. The 25th, the Supreme Being, is called Allah. The other 24 are Supreme Beings subordinate to the 25th. They are called scientists because they have mastered the mathematics of Islam, the mathematics of reality. DNA is mathematics. DNA is chemistry. Chemistry is mathematics. We are DNA, period. So we are mathematics. Atoms, protons, neutrons, electrons are mathematics. Everything in existence is composed of atoms, everything, or like photons, a result of atomic interaction. Everything is mathematics. Your very thoughts are the interactions of neurons. There is no mystical force, no misregard interaction. Phenomena/miracles/accidents are just facts that your limited knowledge of mathematics can't explain. God is man, so God is DNA. God is mathematics, superior mathematics, a scientist. You want a different reaction? Change your actions, your thoughts. The science of Islam, 5 pillars, are a primer on just how to do that. Fact-tethered faith, Quran recital, charity, fasting, and the application of the principles of harmony, your spiritual gem for success. Do you not understand that we are the mind, the consciousness of mathematics? Thought is force. Thought is pressure. Thought is mathematics. You can change your reality with just your thoughts. Once you learn to control and manage your thoughts, there is consequence for every action. For every action, there is an opposite action called reaction. Action, reaction is force. Thought is the most powerful force in the universe. Thought is harmonic pressure. You change your thoughts, you change your reality. If your thoughts change, your reality has to change. That's mathematics. The devils have taught you to think against yourselves, to reject/ignore mathematics. In a few days, the power of your thoughts will increase dramatically. Everyone's will. How did the Caucasians explode out of Europe and the British Isles to cover the planet and force/hammer the nations into submission? The Pope/Church had them on their knees praying to some mystery god for 1,000 years, called the Dark Ages or Medieval Age. Both adjectives are apt, medieval and dark. After 1,000 years of that nonsense, they finally got off their knees, gave the Pope the finger, and turned to the real God, mathematics and science. Forward to the past. As the Caucasians were turning to the one true real God, mathematics, the Arabs, who Muhammad had revealed the true God to, was being dragged into darkness away from the true God whom they had been serving for 1,000 years by ignorant, conniving, deceitful so-called imams. The mathematical Quran, the mathematical Islam, was displaced by some mystical 1,000 years backwards versions devoid of all science, mathematics, even reason. As a result, the Arabs, Sunni community lost all its power, which was/is being transferred to the Caucasians. The Caucasians have taken control of the surface of the planet, not with prayers, not with faith in some mystical God. No, the source of their power is mathematics. As with Rome before them and Greece, when they turned to the true God, they excelled above their contemporaries, whose faith was not in the true God, mathematics, but in sticks, stones, superstition, fables, etc. Their collapse came when they lost faith in the one true God, mathematics, or were confronted with a nation who possessed a greater faith and knowledge of the true God, mathematics. Belief, prayer, hope, superstition has never and will never control in the presence of those who worship the true God, mathematics. The problem with Caucasians is their conflictory nature. As stated in Romans 7, they acknowledge and serve God with their minds, which is their mathematics and science. Science is the application of mathematics, but their nature is opposed to God, opposed to the truth of mathematics. They have fallen in love with science, mathematics, but their nature resists opposing applying science, mathematics to their own person. We see this phenomenon gaining ground every day, 24/7, 365, while Gog, Magog, and Dajjal are making breakthroughs and relative achievements in mathematics and science. They are at the same time descending into ever illogical, nonsensical, irrational decadence, homosexuality, acceptance, approval, and open practice, same-sex marriage, abortion itself decadent in conflict with creation. But after birth, transsexuals, transgender, and all its repercussions, such as any and all bathrooms are subject to your whimsical sexual ID, all of which are mathematical aberrations. Gog, Magog, Dajjal are at war with the creation. The Caucasians are worshiping God, the one true God of mathematics, while they have deceived the nations to seek power in prayer, superstition, etc. Any nation who looks like it is turning to the real God, mathematics, America goes after them and finds or manufactures some reason to bomb them back 1,400 years. America wants no competition. Those nations who have managed to avoid America's attack are themselves seeking out the true God. America views them as existential threats, rivals, China, Russia. Their father, their God, their creator, Yaqub, created and established his creation with mathematics, science. He supported his creation with mathematical knowledge. As the Quran reveals, they were given very, very, very little knowledge, yet it was more than anyone else had. God has revealed that only he himself can destroy Yaqub's creation. How? With superior mathematics, superior science. Rod came with superior mathematics, superior science, superior facts, not with prayer, philosophy, inspirational speech. The Son of Man, Suleiman, would come with superior mathematics, superior science, and superior facts. Yaqub's creation are masters of the universe, Gog, Magog, and Dajjal. They have come forth from every elevated place, descending on the ignorant, hammering the nations into submission. The mighty Thor/America, whose father, Odin/Dajjal, is a decadent scientist, blind in his mortal eye, but bright in his God's eye, his mathematical mind. They are careful to keep those who are on their knees on their knees. They snatched the original nation and forced them on their knees, forbidding any access to the true God. Mathematics. No reading, no math for you, where they have been for 400 years waiting for some mystery God to give them justice. How is that working? Magog is the mother of Gog. Magog is Britain, Adam. The British people are not a real people, nor is the English language a real language. Both have their origins in Europe. Britain is not in Europe. The British Isles are islands off the coast of Europe. The British people are refugees, exiles, immigrants from Europe. The English language is a composite of many languages, as it continues to be. In Genesis, we are told that Adam was made from the dust of the earth. The earth scripturally is Europe, and dust, particles of waste, is analogous to the makeup and origin of the British people, the dust of and from Europe. God is America. In Genesis, Gog/America is Eve, the mate of Magog/Britain/Adam, who was taken from the side or rib of Adam after Adam was put into a deep sleep. The deep sleep was the 1,000 years called the medieval or dark ages, from 400s to 1400s. It was the resurrection of Islam by Prophet Muhammad, as revealed in the Angel 20, that put Adam, Britain, and virtually all Europe to sleep. As Adam/Britain began awakening from his deep sleep in the 1400s, Eve/America, colonists from Britain, made their debut, taken from the side/rib of Britain. You want to take away Thor's hammer? You need more powerful mathematics, more powerful science than he has. More powerful prayers ain't going to do. The child is the Antichrist called Cain, the son of Adam and Eve in Genesis. Adam/Britain and Eve/America had two sons, Abel and Seth. Cain is the murderer of his brothers, specifically Abel. Abel and Seth are Syria and Iran. Dajjal is also Satan, the god of this age. Dajjal rules the Caucasian nations. In 1948, Adam and Eve, Britain and America, would conceive Cain, false Israel, the Antichrist, called the Antichrist because the Antichrist is an anti or counterbalance to the Christ. The Antichrist and the Christ will be conceived at the same time. The Antichrist, the star of David, would rise in the east to herald the conception of the Christ. The Jal, the so-called Jews. The Jews are Caucasians who have usurped the identity of the real seed of Abraham, Isaac, the original people imprisoned in America. The so-called Jews were justifiably persecuted by their European brothers for thousands of years. Their predatory practices were resented everywhere they went. When the Moors, black African Muslims from Morocco, conquered Spain in the 700s, the Jews who were able, fled to more occupied Spain, where they found shelter and protection from their European brothers. The so-called Jews referred to the period in more controlled Spain from 700s to to 1492 as their golden age. How did the so-called fake Jews repay the Moors for their hospitality, for their protection for nearly 800 years? Betrayal. They were the iron and silver hand behind the abduction, transfer, enslavement, and persecution of the Moors for 400 years. The first blacks abducted from Africa were from northwest Africa, which is Morocco. They were Muslim. They were the Moors, the descendants of those who protected the fake Jews for 800 years. That's how they repaid us. The so-called Holocaust was just the latest 20th century expression of European hatred for the Jews. The hatred of the so-called Jews just percolated and increased with each passage of time. But suddenly, the most hated people in the world, their shit became honey. Literally, overnight. What happened? Elijah Muhammad happened. Elijah revealed the truth of the so-called Jews and the truth of the identity of the real seed of Abraham, a truth that sent shockwaves through the power brokers, captains of America. They could not allow the narrative that the niggers, who they, the devils, have been persecuted, raping, hanging, murdering for 400 years, are the true seed of Abraham, the true inheritors of the prophecy. The devils needed a counter-narrative. So suddenly, the shithead Jews became honeypots. The so-called Jews had to be made to fulfill the prophecies. The return of the Jews to Israel is prophetic. So the devils had to make that happen. A sure sign of the authenticity of the Jews being the true seed of Abraham, the true inheritors of the prophecy. No one notices that there was a return of false Jews to Israel by the decree of the king of Persia. America is the modern-day Persia. Those that returned by the decree of Persia/America were determined not to be ethnic Jews, not the seed of Abraham. This is all outlined in the Injil, chapter 13. American policy towards false Israel is driven by America's desperate attempt to snuff out, eradicate the narrative that her niggers are the true seed of Abraham. Can you imagine if that narrative, if that idea took hold in America, the truth that the niggers are the true seed of Abraham, the fulfillment of the 400-year bondage, and the inheritors of the kingdom? Can you? What would that say about America? What would it say about America's destiny? What would that reveal about who the whites, Caucasians are, about their true natures? The Jah is Satan, the God of this age, the Lord of the nations. He is the one sitting on the throne in Angel 4. He is said to deceive the entire world in Angel 20. America, Britain are his left and right hands. They are his Cain's parents, Adam and Eve. They do his bidding. Sometimes they need a little push, but in the end, they obey. America needs a little prodding to take on false Israel's enemies, the Arabs, who false Israel needs vanquished so that it can so it is free to take control of the Middle East with all its land and oil reserves. To that end, America needs to have a reason to go to war with the Middle Eastern countries who yet resist false Israel's ambitions. To this end, the injury reveals that 911 was a false flag operation planned and executed by false Israel using Arabs from Saudi Arabia as the executioners. This is revealed in chapter 9, the event which occurred just before the blowing of the seven trumpets. False Israel will need an hostile act committed against America on the level of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor that brought America into World War II, which literally saved Britain, paving the way to the establishment of false Israel, their first stepping stone to their grand plan of taking the Middle East from the Arabs. It worked, and now America has been ensnared in a perpetual war with the enemies of false Israel, which is bankrupting America. Phase 2 of their plans is a false flag operation against Iran on the level of 911. They have a willing, more than willing, partner/dupe in Mr. Trump. Belief matrix. The Jah, Satan, the God of this age, has deceived the entire world. The belief matrix. Everyone is in a state of untethered belief, oblivious to facts, any facts. The people believe they are free when they are all but free. Freedom that you pay for is not free. You are free to work for and obey them. Try stopping both, and you will be free to go to prison. The original people were truly free before being dragged here into tyranny. Free air, free water, free housing, free access to anything they pleased. Free meat on the hoof. Free fruits and vegetables growing everywhere. No need for Social Security, as the community, tribe, family took care of all its elderly. The elderly were honored, respected, loved, and in leadership. Every woman was mother to every child. Same here in pre-Columbus America. Freedom? All the so-called resort/vacation sites are places where the original natives, occupants, actually lived. Now you have to pay to spend a week or two to live as the natives previously lived for free. Virtual paradises. The Jiao has taken everything that was free to us and is selling it back to us, which is how they control us, calling it, quote, freedom, end quote. And everyone believes it. The belief matrix. To Trump, do not attack North Korea nor Iran, specifically Iran. The day you do it, you will surely die within a year. Within 1 year, you, Eve, your son Cain / Israel, and husband Adam/Britain will be no more. I know you will ignore this warning. I know you will be made aware of the warning. We know all your secrets, your secret plans. You have reached your expiration date, a date built into your people's DNA by your maker. From this point on, everything you do will backfire. Everything. Your history, your destiny was written before your existence. Your destruction will come as a snare, and you will not escape. Let's examine this carefully. The woman is on the earth, as the earth is the only astronomical object that is positioned as she is, clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet. The woman is being tormented to give birth. It is not the dragon who is tormenting her. The dragon wants to prevent the birth. Who is tormenting her? She wants to give birth to the child in her belly, so where is the torment there? Being tormented means being forced to do that which she is unwilling or resisting, which is rape. She is being raped and forced to give birth to that which she does not want. The woman is the original nation who is to give birth to Farad Muhammad, where she has. But she is also being forced to give birth to demon/chaff, the seed of the enemy. Black-faced Caucasians, the devil's seed, which are corrupting, plaguing the original nation. The earth is scripturally the European nations, in this case America. The original nation was raped by devils producing demons for over 400 years, resulting in nearly half of blacks are demons. The original nation has been seeded with the Caucasian seed, whose primary purpose is to ensure we stay on our knees praying. Anyone who gets up and reaches for the true God, mathematics, they destroy. Elijah came with mathematics, but his math was superior to theirs, so they could not destroy him. So they went after those around him, his sons, his ministers, where they were successful, very much so. Is there any mathematics coming from the NOI? No, absolutely not. The devils and their demon children are content to see the NOI believing in 1400-year-old discredited, out-of-date ideas, contemporaneous, discredited pseudoscience. For they know that the NOI will never be a threat as long as they are on their knees believing in mystery gods that form our children in the womb, wakes us up in the morning, etc., etc. The demons guard the NOI to make sure that it stays on its knees, believing in fables and philosophies. Can't have no more of that, quote, maker, owner, cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe, end quote stuff. The angel exposes them, the devils and the demons. The demons are beside themselves trying to block the angel revelations, but it won't work, ain't working. The son of man, Suleiman, loved to expose and aggravate the demons. Everywhere he went, he pointed them out, calling them out to their open distress. Demons, black-faced Caucasians, the seed of 400 years of devils raping black women. The Son of Man didn't go about killing demons. He threw/cast them out. No one ever asked why didn't he try to or attempt to heal the demons. Because he came to destroy them, to cast them into the fire, along with all the chaff/tares. Notice, he was separating them from their victims. That's what he came to do, separate the chaff from the wheat. Once separated, the chaff is set ablaze. Same with Aaron's followers and Moses' followers. Once separated, Aaron's followers slaughtered. You study all the stories/scriptures, and you will find the who, what, when, why, and how. The chaff/demons are the seed of the devils, the enemy. They would be plaguing the original nation living among the wheat. They would be located in the NOI, Aaron's followers. It would be the Son of Man who would be exposing them, calling them out. Peter, Farrakhan, would be leading them, whom Jesus called Satan. But Ishmael tries to claim that Peter would be the foundation of the NOI, the Son of Man's church. But the fact is, Jesus was talking to Peter when he said, "On this rock I will build my church," end quote. Read it. He didn't say to Peter, quote, "On you I will build my church," end quote. No, he pointed to a rock, referring to it. But Peter would fill it with demons. The gates of hell are there to keep devils and demons in. As the gates fail, don't prevail, the demons will escape into the church, where Satan/Peter/Farrakhan would preside over Jesus' church, until he came with full of soap to clean the skunks out. He did call Peter Satan, didn't he? Was he lying on Peter? The Son of Man will dispatch/dispel the demons, black-faced Caucasians, the seed of the enemy. He recognizes them and calls them out. The demons have been spreading and promoting chaos and chaotic ideas among the original people, plaguing us and distorting our image among the nations. Once they are exposed and cast out, the original nation will be in harmony. Once the chaff/weeds that have been choking the wheat are separated and cast out, the wheat will return to health, prosperity, and peace. Arch deceiver. Do you really think that arch deceiver would step forward and announce his deception, his means of deception? No. An arch deceiver employs falsehood, the healthy mingling of truth with a lethal dose of lies deception, as a fisherman with very attractive bait concealing the lethal hook. The bait is designed for the anticipated catch. Elijah's teachings is the bait, the lies are the hook. The satanic Jews, quote, qualified, unquote. Who are they? The enemy, qualified devils. Who are they? He's not attacking Caucasians/devils, nor Jews/Satan. Just those, quote, enemy devils, the bad ones, the satanic Jews, the bad ones, end quote. All the others are good and redeemable. They will give him credibility by attacking him, because they are all working together for the same goal, our destruction. Dine with swine. The scriptures are crystal clear concerning Farrakhan, the son of perdition, and those, the demons with him. They have no love for truth, meaning no love for scriptures, prophecy. They love to feed off lies. What do demons eat? What is their favorite dish? Devil's food. That is what Farrakhan is feeding them, like pigs in a trough. You can put clean, good food aside slop, and the pigs will go after the slop every time. In the face of absolute mathematical science, they stand up with firm resolution and espouse ignorant, stupid things like your mother and father has nothing to do with your creation. Your, quote, gift/talent, end quote, you're forming in the womb, which is demonstrably false, easy to prove. Let's look at the son of perdition. He would be an impressive speaker. He would make war with the saints/NOI and prevail against them. He would declare himself God in the temple publicly. He's associated with Satan. They overlook that he is compared to Satan, not described as Satan. His followers would be averse to truth, meaning they would dismiss prophecy. He would not be revealed until after the falling away. He would control the NOI until the Ancient of Days stepped up, exposed, and destroyed him. Now we have Mr. Farrakhan claiming that the, quote, satanic, end quote, Jews, who, or whatever they are the son of perdition, mainly attempting to divert attention from himself. Well, firstly, the son of perdition is singular. Secondly, if the, quote, satanic, end quote, Jews are the son of perdition, then they should be in control of the saints, the NOI, which would include Mr. Farrakhan. If Mr. Farrakhan is the son of perdition, then he would be in control of the NOI. Either way, Farrakhan would be with or under the control of the Jews. Thirdly, the son of perdition would not be revealed until after the great falling away. Mr. Farrakhan is claiming that people are falling away now from the, quote, satanic Jews, end quote, whomever or whatever they are, as a result of his calling them out. Quote, be not deceived. The falling away would occur first, before the exposure of the son of perdition, end quote. Fourthly, if Mr. Farrakhan is the anointed as he claims, then NOI was his responsibility upon Elijah's departure, which means that the fate of the NOI was/is his responsibility. So the NOI didn't just fall. Whatever happened to it was on his hands, his fault. Yet he refuses to take responsibility. We see lying Ishmael every week talking about how the NOI fell, how it was trashed. Well, who was doing the trashing? Exactly, Farrakhan along with Wallace. they openly trashed the messenger, badmouthed him and Farad. There are tapes to prove it. But the demons don't care about truth. They claim they represent the truth, but don't tell the truth to or about them. Farrakhan killed and buried the NOI. He and Wallace set up their own thing called the Bellalians. They scuttled the NOI of all its assets, shut down all the NOI businesses, destroying the livelihood of thousands of believers. Went to court to get a judgment to have all the NOI money's assets that the messenger left to the rightful owners, the believers, transferred to the messenger's family. Once all that had been accomplished, they all fled/vanished, except for Wallace. Poof. The true believers, the 144,000, the elect of the Lamb, flee Farrakhan and Wallace and their Bellalian BS immediately. Some find refuge with the Sunni, some with the Shia. The NOI is no more, replaced and renamed the Bellalians. Fraud is mocked and dismissed by Wallace and Farrakhan. They took the money and split. Where is Elijah's family now? Anyone seen or heard from them since the 70s? This included Ishmael and family. They fled the country to Mexico, where they were hiding out until Farrakhan guaranteed their safety. Farrakhan fled like everyone else, except he fled broke. The family didn't share their looting of the NOI with him. They used him to badmouth and trash the messenger with the promise of a piece of the loot which they never delivered. Anyone asked why Ishmael grew up in Mexico and where did they get the money to live there? They all trashed NOI and left it for dead. Farrakhan ran back to Massa begging to get back on the minstrel stage. He didn't only forsake, betray, and trash the messenger, but he, the quote anointed, end quote, forsake Islam. He turned away from Islam. He didn't have a vision or epiphany to return to the NOI. He had no intention on that at all. No. The NOI was dead and buried. He personally saw to that. No, some brother had to go seek him out and convince him with guarantees to return. Being busted, rejected by Massa and nearly broken, he had little choice. He didn't return to resurrect the NOI that he had killed. He returned to milk whatever he could salvage of the defunct NOI, then finish it off for good. Drive a final stake right into the NOI's heart. If he is the anointed like he claims, then the NOI was left with him in his hands. So he must take responsibility for whatever happened or happens to it. Yet he has yet to do that. It fell. The NOI fell, like a child who claims the broken dish fell off the table. No, it didn't fall. You knocked it down. You tore it down. I was there. I witnessed everything. That makes him a liar, as he is too much of a coward and liar to step up like a man and take responsibility for what he did or failed to do. What has he built? If he were to leave today or tomorrow, what would be left of his NOI? All the quote ministers end quote are quote student ministers end quote. So they don't know anything. The chief student minister, Ishmael, is an uninformed, uneducated idiot who no one would follow out of a burning building. He can hang two sentences together that don't contradict themselves. Mr. Farrakhan has not publicly named a successor. All monies are under his control. There is nothing he would leave a NOI that has been hollowed out, confused, betrayed. What do demons eat? Devil's food. That's what they eat. Mr. Farrakhan has a full banquet of devil's food. Auditing, socialism, backward, scientifically debunked Sunni philosophy, mythology, outright lies, everything but prophecy. He claims he knows the Torah, gospel, angel, and wisdom, but never reveals or even talks about it because he is a liar and don't know shit. What do you think all that auditing is about? That's information for the FBI. Farrakhan sold out the NOI years ago. The auditing is to save the FBI the expense of investigating all the members, so they willingly provide all the information, personal information about themselves. Where do you think that information is going? Fools all. They were given to believe the lie because they hate the truth, prophecy. The story of Balak. Balaam reveals that minstrel Farrakhan, the ass in the story, was first punished, the first of three punishments. Then he sold out to the dragon House of Assad to finish off NOI in exchange for citizenship for his family and lifelong accommodations. How do you think he is providing for his family after his death? Don't you think they want to know? You will find out when they suddenly disappear with the money after his death, like the Messenger's family did. Poof. It's Minstrel Farrakhan's plan, purpose, obligation as a result of his arrangement with the dragon, Saudi Arabia, to apply the final fatal blow to the NOI. He came back to a NOI fatally wounded but breathing to finish it off. Angered because he was left with nothing, broke, busted, and then rejected by Master after having begged Master for forgiveness and placed at Master's table. Think of it, going back and begging Master to shake his ass after having sat with and taught by the messenger of God. Just think about that. He returned, angry at Master, angry at Elijah, with a vengeance to get paid. And getting paid is the objective. He hasn't built anything. The NOI is a hollowed out shell of what the messenger left behind. A few, quote, mosques, end quote, a bunch of so-called study groups, which are in reality brainwashing sessions where you spend the time reciting his words verbatim. No assets, no successor, a dilution and distortion of the messenger's teachings. No promise, no vision. He ain't promising anything. There is no vision. Quote, we ain't going nowhere, end quote. So the, quote, promise of return, end quote, has been invalidated. The reward for 400 years of hell. If that's true, quote, we ain't going nowhere, end quote, then the, quote, promise of the return, end quote, has been invalidated. The reward of 400 years of hell. God has made it out, God is made out to be a liar. Quote, no for certain, end quote. No doubt, no equivocation. The entire prophecy is a direct promise from God himself. The return is reward for enduring 400 years of hell. No reward. So, Mr. Farrakhan, either God is a liar or you are. So, what is there? Nothing, absolutely nothing. He will leave an empty shell which will abruptly vanish as fast as his family vanishes with the dough, never to be heard of or seen again. That was the wet dream of Wallace, to turn all of his followers, the believers, back to Egypt, back to America, back to Massa. That's what Aaron attempted to do, turn the people back to Egypt. Once minstrel Farrakhan has departed, that will be the death knell for whatever remains of the NOI. Who could possibly keep it together after, quote, Jesus, end quote, has left the building? You can't get the FY to do anything in, quote, Jesus's, quote, end quote, presence. Who will motivate them when he's gone? Motivate to do what? Ishmael will vanish as quickly or even quicker than the rest. After all, they already have experience with vanishing, poof, leaving those blindly followed believers in the streets, fools, 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 with nowhere to go, betrayed and confused. That's Farrakhan's plan. That ain't Allah's plan. It won't happen that way. The NOI will not be turned out, abandoned, destroyed. The Ancient of Days is about to suddenly intervene and throw the rascals, the skunks, out. The chief demon, Farrakhan, aka Aaron, and all his little demon followers, quote, until thrones were cast down and the Ancient of Days did sit, end quote. The Ancient of Days / Son of Man / Jonah will suddenly appear imminent with a box full of Fuller soap, ready and able to clean up and clean out the stench that minstrel Farrakhan has made of the NOI. As for minstrel Farrakhan, he will try to make his last stand with his demon Christian preachers to speak, quote, strange things, end quote, against the Most High, the Ancient of Days. He will fail and be humiliated before the entire world, before his ignominious, humiliating end. The jinn are a class of people, not a nation of people. The Quran never states that the jinn are a nation. They are singularly noted for disbelief and resistance to change. Disbelief is a symptom of resistance to change. The jinn represent the status quo. The status quo who the status quo always resists change. The disbelievers are always of the status quo, who disbelieve in the oracles of change. Disbelief is the pathology of the status quo. The jinn has always been with us, as Iblis stated. He was created from intensely hot fire, meaning he is of the original people. The demons, the Djal, Gog and Magog, are the current jinn. They don't want change and are actually fighting anyone and anything that might result in the change of their power, rule, and reign, particularly the demons, black-faced Caucasians. They don't want to go anywhere. Stay right here with Daddy, Massa. Imagine a universal law that everyone is paid $1,000 a week, not to allow or accumulate anything worth more than $1,000 a week. Then someone takes $1,000 from someone else, increasing his allotment to $2,000 a week. Then law enforcement would instantaneously appear to take the additional $1,000 from you, restoring you to law abidance, restoring you to, quote, balance, end quote. Imagine that there are 5 categories of people, some requiring $1,000 per week for their personal maintenance, some requiring $800 per week, some requiring $600 per week, some requiring $400 per week, some requiring $200 per week. The one requiring $1,000 will have zero disposable income. The one requiring $200 per week would have $800 per week for disposable income. The one with $800 per week disposable income would have more power than the others, while having a much weaker structure than the others. The following is an example of the condition of the original people. We require $1,000 per week for personal maintenance because we have bodies built soundly with all the accessories, while the devils only require $200 per week for personal maintenance because they have weaker bodies with few to no accessories. This leaves the original people powerless with no disposable income when the weekly allotment is $1,000 per week, while the devils are powerful, having $800 per week of disposable income. If the weekly allotment is increased to $2,000 per week, then the original people have $1,000 of disposable income, empowering them. Now that they are empowered, the devils who now have $1,800 of disposable income will be crushed in a collision with the original people who are now empowered and out and about. A solid, sound structure in a collision against a weak, inferior structure. A Lamborghini against a VW Beetle. No contest. Income is energy. The energy allotment increases approximately every 50 years. We are just emerging from a 6,000 year period of energy deprivation where we didn't have enough energy to maintain ourselves. Yaqub create a stripped down, weak version of ourselves, our likeness and image, who requires less energy, giving him power over us. The curse. Dr. Shabazz, in an attempt to minimize the power of Dr. Yaqub's creation at the height of our energy deprivation, prescribed the Sabbath. The Sabbath was designed to maximize the use of our energy requirement to increase our energy efficiency, spread our energy requirements over 6 days while conserving use one day, the Sabbath. The alternative was the 400-year curse that we inflicted upon ourselves when we abandoned the Sabbath, thinking that Muhammad's law, Sharia law, replaced Moses' Masonic law. No, it is the same law. The Sabbath was just a temporary supplement to address the energy deprivation issue. The devils are the personification of the negative reaction, which is the correction force to keep us in balance. Emerging from so-called slavery, many blacks reached out to the temptation to have parity with the devil, such as setting up their own towns or communities to rival the devil's, not knowing that the energy levels did not allow such achievements at that time. So the devils, the energy correcting agents, stepped in and tore them down, resetting the balance. The devils, as well as the demons, serve the same function: negative reaction, restorative/corrective reaction. The difference is that the demons are camouflaged. If every time you step up and reach for a higher level of success, and there is someone who steps in to destroy it, that is a demon or devil. They are always tearing down what you build. That's a demon. That's their nature. They can be a blessing as they keep you in balance, avoiding an invisible calamity, but they are the enemy. They intend to do what they are doing as it is their nature. The messenger said, quote, one of the last, if not the last trick, would be the devil's women, end quote. Black-faced female Caucasians. They will come in smiling and go out with your blood dripping off their fangs and claws, dragging your children behind them. The original nation, quote, the maker, owner, cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe, end quote, are the inheritors of what their fathers spent 76 trillion years building and preparing. Quote, a garden as wide as the heavens and the earth, end quote. We see impostors, thieves, liars attempting to rob us of our inheritance. The son of perdition, the dragon, the Jal, all their efforts, their machinations are failing, will fail. We built their destruction, their expiration date into their DNA. There is no weapon they will or can devise that can prevail against us. We need not to resort to any violence against them. We are not violent by nature, irregardless of what the demons would have you believe. We act in self-defense. We are the masters of self-defense. The Ancient of Days, once he has removed the demon plague, will establish an harmonic system that is 100% in sync with the creation that will endure, live forever, returning the original nation to its true nature right here in America in the presence of our enemies. The judgment, the separation of the weeds/chaff will occur right here in America. All was planned. We allowed ourselves to be put in the furnace of affliction to burn off, remove all the impurities. The furnace was set up here far away from home so that the impurities would be trapped here in the furnace once we were removed. This is called the tribulation. We don't want to chance any impurities reinfecting us. America, a magnet of dross, which the prophet calls scum, the place the Jah calls all the weak/wicked to with his siren call, to be burnt alive once the child's siren call suddenly abruptly stops. We will suddenly be removed by Farad, leaving everyone else behind trapped. Why would any, quote, Muslim, unquote, come to America? Why would anyone come? They are attracted by the Dajjal's siren call. The Hadith says his call would be irresistible to the wicked, the disbelievers, the liars. They are all drawn to America, to their ultimate destruction. The Hadith says that the Dajjal would sing an irresistible siren for 40 years, then abruptly stop, leaving all those who succumb to it encompassed about in flames. The Torah reveals that any and all foreigners found in America during the tribulation will be thrust through by sword, killed. Dragon, demons, false prophet. What do the false prophet, false Israel, the dragon, house of Sard, and the son of perdition, Farrakhan, king of the demons, have in common? At what point does their agendas converge? Understand they all are impostors. First, the false prophet, Jews, have usurped the identity of Isaac, claiming to be the seed of Abraham and the inheritors of the, quote, promise of return, end quote, which is the substance of the prophetic promise to Abraham. The return is the reward for 400 years of suffering. They, the Jews, are guilty of identity theft and fraud. They want to inherit the promise of return without the prerequisite of 400 years of terror, which qualifies for the reward of inheritance of the Holy Land. They have faked their identity and faked the, quote, promise of return, end quote, but they can't fake the 400 years of terror that we in spirit experience, though they have tried. But there just ain't no evidence of them ever being in bondage anywhere at any time, even by their own admission. Second, the dragon, the house of Sod, Hindus, has usurped the identity of Ishmael, having taken possession of the, quote, land of promise, end quote, Arabia, who Ishmael, the Arabs, are the caretakers of. The dragon, house of Sod, hates the righteous seed of the woman, and being frustrated and wrathful in its inability to destroy her righteous seed slash NOI, the dragon goes to war against the NOI. The dragon controls the, quote, land of promise, end quote, and will not stop at anything to prevent the original people slash Isaac from returning and taking possession of it. They employed Farrakhan to remove even the desire of Isaac slash NOI to return. Quote, we ain't going nowhere, end quote. Third, the demons are physical imposters. They look like us, talk like us, can act like us, but ain't us. They are the chaff slash tares slash weeds that the devils sowed among the wheat through rape, tormenting black women to give birth to their devil hybrids called demons. The son of perdition, Farrakhan, the king of demons' efforts are to keep us, Isaac, the inheritors of the, quote, promise of return, end quote, from even wanting to return. He keeps preaching that, quote, we ain't going nowhere, end quote, which nullifies the, quote, promise of return, end quote, and the 400 years of suffering that earned us the, quote, promise of return, end quote. Without the fulfillment of the, quote, promise of return, end quote, there is no promise. The Quran tells us that Allah will never destroy a nation while the righteous are among them. Farrakhan, the chief demon, is trying to protect Daddy Massa by keeping us here as hostages. The messenger taught that they would use us as hostages. The original nation is under siege by devils, is being plagued by demons, is being ripped off by Satan, stalked by the dragon, and tricked by the serpent. Caucasians, black-faced Caucasians, Jews, Sunnis, Obama. We see in the story of the sacrifice of Isaac that Isaac is literally saved slash delivered slash rescued at the very last moment, not a split second to spare. In Isaac's place, a ram whose two horns are snared in or by the bushes was sacrificed slash burned at the altar in Isaac's place. The two horns are America and Britain. The ram is false Israel. The Bushes are Presidents Bush Jr. and Bush Sr., who have ensnared America and Britain in perpetual war in the Islamic world. The original nation is marked for genocide, scheduled for death. The original nation is in the valley of the shadow of death, cloaked and compassed all about in evil. The original nation is all alone. There is not one nation on the planet that have or will stand with the original nation. Not one nation stood up for the original nation in this time of trouble. For 400 years, not one nation came to the original nation's aid, nor even spoke up for us. All the nations were well aware, but not one gave a damn. As the scriptures state, quote, all our lovers abandoned us, end quote. The vultures, the buzzards. Once the 400 sentence had ended, every nation came looking to eat whatever scraps of flesh was left on the bones of the original nation that the devils had not already devoured. You see the Mexicans and the Chinese taking all the manufacturing and agricultural jobs. The Indians running here taking all the IT jobs. You even have the Indians suing to take all, quote, higher, end quote, education opportunities from blacks. Yet they have free education from kindergarten to PhD in India. All the while, America is planning the final demise, the final solution of blacks. The preferred method is genocide under the color of war. You see the demons, black-faced Caucasians, always talking about looking out and helping the Hispanics, the Indians, the Israelis, the Jews, gays, LGBTQ, etc., etc. When has any of those groups or anyone else ever spoke out for the original nation, not to mention blacks in general? Demons don't represent the original nation. They may look like us, but they ain't us. MLK represented demons, demons' hopes, demons' dreams, and aspirations. The policies and aspirations of MLK are diametrically opposed to those expressed by the messenger. America is about to close the door on our fate. The plans have been made and in the process of implementation. They are coming from every angle. The arch deceiver is leading the charge, the son of perdition, the quote, mouth, end quote, Farrakhan, pointing the way, paving the way to our destruction. Think of it, quote, we ain't going nowhere, end quote, meaning we have to defend being here. Thus, we must go to war to defend America. Thus, we have to fight side by side with our open enemies, devils and Jews. But who are they fighting against? Elijah says they will be fighting against the forces of God. Quote, and the 10 horns which you saw and the wild beast, these will hate the harlot, and having been desolated, will make her naked, and the fleshes of her they will eat, and her they will burn down in fire. For the God gave into the hearts of them to do the opinion of him, and to do one opinion, and to give the kingdom of them to the wild beast until will be finished the words of God. End quote. Thus, we will be fighting against God slash Farad. But how is it? How big is the enemy army? 200 million. What is the population of America? 300 million. What is the male population of blacks in America? 20 million. Death by genocide under the color of war. America slash God needs a quote black end quote standard bearer to get blacks to rally around that will lead them to their deaths. Genocide under the color of war. They need blacks to willingly go to war on America's behalf. Enter the son of perdition. That is the official position of the NOI. Quote, we ain't going nowhere. America belongs to us. We built it. End quote. We must be prepared to go to war side by side with devils and Jews to defend America. Yet, Mr. Farrakhan claims that it is God's will to destroy America. Hey, bro. Hey, dog. If the FOI is willing to go to fight for America, it must be dope. Let's roll.